Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome to episode 15 of Living Well. I'm very excited we have a special guest on today, Heather Drevna from RAINN, who is going to tell us all about the incredible things that RAINN does. Through launching my foundation a couple of weeks ago called the Make You Movement, I will be donating every dollar I make off of my song Make You to RAINN, as well as wanting to partner with them a lot in the future just because they're so incredible with everything that they do. So I thought it would be really great to have Heather come on Living Well to talk about all of the amazing things they do as an organization and how they can be a support for survivors all over the world. Hi, Heather. How's it going?
Hi, Lindsay. I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. It's so good to talk to you. Welcome to Living Well. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Well, I have always looked up to RAINN and everything you guys do, and I'm so excited to officially be able to partner with you guys. Let's first talk about what RAINN is. For people watching, they might have heard of you guys before, but can you talk a little bit about what RAINN does and how the organization got started?
RAINN is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. We created and operate the National Sexual Assault Hotline, which is available via phone at 1-800-656-HOPE, which is 4673, and online chat at online.rainn.org. We've helped more than 3 million survivors and their loved ones since 1994. RAINN primarily does four things. First and foremost, we support victims and their families when they reach out for help. We also educate the public about sexual violence and its effects. We also work to help improve public policy and get justice for survivors. And we help companies and organizations improve the way they prevent and respond to sexual violence.
That's so incredible. You know, obviously the hotline is an incredible resource, and I have been using that a lot, even in my interviews and talking with fans over the past few weeks. But can you talk a little bit further about what kind of programs RAINN provides and RAINN has?
Sure. Healing from sexual violence is a process that looks different for everyone. For some people, talking about what happened can be an important part of moving forward and seeking help. So the National Sexual Assault Hotline, our victim-centered, trauma-informed support specialists are there to discuss anything callers want to discuss. Our calls are survivor-led, so our support specialists will go where the survivor wants to go. About a third of the people who contact us have had something happen very recently, usually within the last 48 to 72 hours. Those types of callers are really looking for practical information. They're looking for information about where they can get potentially a sexual assault forensic exam, more commonly known as a rape kit. They're looking for questions about medical care. They're looking for questions about reporting to law enforcement, what their options might be. So that's about a third of the callers. The other 2/3 of the callers might be calling anywhere along their healing journey. It could be 2, 5, 10, even 50 years after something has happened to them, and they just want to talk with someone and help process that. So we're there to listen, we're there to support, and we're there to point to additional resources. We partner with about 1,000 local sexual assault service providers across the country who can also offer additional support. And the hotline's there 24/7, 365 days a year. Our services are free and they're completely confidential. We don't keep any IP addresses. We don't keep any sort of demographic information. We're not recording any of the information that's coming in through the computer itself. Everything is completely confidential.
It's incredible. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the issue of sexual violence as a whole, because I know, even from when we started talking to you guys a few weeks ago and me deciding to finally come out with my story and write a song about it. And I feel like oftentimes it's a difficult thing to talk about. And the more, we all use our voices and share our stories, the more people can feel okay to talk about it. And the more I have definitely felt so many people have been reaching out about, Lindsay, thank you so much for writing that song. This is my story. And so I would just love to hear from you, Heather, like about the issue of sexual violence, specifically within the country, but really around the world, that it is actually way more problem than a lot of us even want to think about.
Oh, first, Lindsay, I'm so glad that you've been getting such a positive reaction from fans and from others to your deeply personal song. That's just fantastic to hear. Sexual violence really does affect nearly every household in America. Unfortunately, the reality is that nearly every 73 seconds, a person in America is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, that person is a child, and 9 out of 10 times, the child knows the perpetrator. It's someone in the family or someone within their circle of trust. Even with adults, 8 out of 10 victims of rape, that they know the perpetrator as well. Sexual violence has been a topic for a long time, unfortunately, but it's really moved more into the national consciousness in the last few years since the Me Too movement really took off. And I think that's a fantastic thing that it is out in the open and people are talking about it a lot more than they have before. 1 out of every 6 women in America has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime, and 1 out of 10 rape victims is male. So this really is an issue that touches everyone: men, women, children, every race, every gender. We do know that many communities are more at risk. So the LGBT community is at higher risk, and Black women especially are at higher risk as well.
My goodness. And talking about my story, it happened when I was 13 for the first time. And when this happens to a child, is it more likely that that child does not speak up about it? Because I know when I was 13 and it happened, I was mortified and I thought I did something wrong. And so I didn't tell my parents for 7 years. And is that more common to have, an incident happen and then somebody not talk about it? Because I'll just say, of the people who have reached out to me since we released Make You, a lot of them have either never talked about it, and DMing me is the first time they've told somebody, or it seems like a really hard thing to voice or to talk about, even to tell a friend. Is that more common than not?
It is, unfortunately. Disclosure is a really personal and extremely difficult decision for many people. There are many different reasons why survivors choose to disclose or not disclose. And often survivors might not share what's happened with anyone, and that's okay. That's their decision. Deciding to tell your story is a personal decision, and we do hear a lot on the hotline. Actually, really, it's the majority of our calls. People are telling us what happened to them for the very first time. Again, some of those calls are recent, something's recently happened, but many of those calls are coming many years in the past. So it's not unusual at all for survivors not to disclose what's happened to them for many, many years. Sometimes it takes them a long time to process what's happened to them. Sometimes, like you've mentioned, the shame of what's happened to them, feeling like they should have been able to fend off the perpetrator or they should have been able to prevent it in some way, also keeps them from speaking up. Not feeling like they have someone to turn to can also keep people from disclosing. The confidential nature of the hotline we found is one reason that people do turn to it. But we have found that for many people, if they've had a negative reaction to disclosure, if they've tried to tell a family member or a friend before and have had a negative reaction where they have felt blamed for what happened or not believed, it can take them years to mention it again to anyone or to reach out for help. That's one of the reasons this past year we've really been focused on the role of family and friends in supporting survivors. Each April is Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And this year, we really focused on that theme of talking with loved ones about sexual assault. And we created an acronym that we called TALK as an easy way to remember how to support a loved one in your life who might be a survivor of sexual violence, and how to be prepared to talk with them if they disclose to you. The first part of the acronym, the T, is to thank them for telling you. It's really important to take a moment to acknowledge just how difficult this is for someone to share this kind of information and to talk about this traumatic thing that's happened to them. So we encourage people just to really take that pause and just to say thank you and acknowledge that difficulty. A stands for ask how you can help. So your first instinct might be to start giving advice and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to talk to the police, you need to see a doctor. We know that that might not be what the survivor needs in the moment. The best thing to do is ask them, how can you help them? How can you help them process this? Sometimes they just want someone to listen to them and sit with them while they help to process this. But you can't know that until you ask. So we really ask people to not rush in to help, but to be led by the survivor with what will be most beneficial to them. The next piece is listening without judgment. It's normal to feel reactions such as anger or shock as if something like this has happened to someone that you care about. That's completely normal. But sometimes expressing those reactions can make the survivor feel like they're responsible for your emotions and discourage them from opening up further because they don't want to take on that burden or feel that burden or that they are a burden to someone else. So trying your best to stay calm and not saying anything impulsive is really important. And finally, the K stands for keep supporting, because healing has no timeline, and it's crucial that survivors have the ongoing support that they need and deserve, and that they know that the people in their lives are there for them no matter what. And sometimes that keep supporting really just looks like just keep involving them, keep letting them know that you're there for them, that they're part of your life, and not treating them differently because of what you know now. So including them and inviting them into the same everyday activities that you enjoyed before.
I love that talk acronym. I mean, over the past week, I've had so many incredible fans and new fans reach out and DM me these beautiful stories, and having that talk acronym is so helpful. And I think for anybody listening and watching, just to know that the biggest thing you can do is listen and be a support for them, and to truly just let them go through their healing process, whatever that means. How has the environment or even the hotline changed since COVID has started? Have things been different at all? Have you been getting more calls?
I think when we look back at this period, we're going to see that it's looked very different for different types of sexual violence. We expect that certain types of sexual violence will see a decline, things like that stem from social situations like meeting at a party or meeting someone at a bar. Those types of incidences, street harassment, things like that, we think we'll have seen a decline in. But unfortunately for many people, staying at home doesn't always mean safe at home. And especially for many women and children, they've been stuck at home with a potential abuser. So what we have seen over the last 4 months, we typically see about 25,000 contacts per month with our victim services programs. In March and April, those numbers were pretty consistent, and we expected that because we've seen in our history when people are in close contact with loved ones, so like over the holidays and other periods where you might have a full house and people don't have as much privacy as usual, we tend to see call volumes be pretty stable or decline a little bit in those periods. So we were expecting that initially when the stay-at-home orders were put in place, we would see, if not a drop, we'd see things be pretty steady. And they remained that way for March and April. But what we did see of the contacts that were being made, particularly on our online hotline, which operates as a chat service, sort of like a texting service, for the first time ever in late March and then continuing into April, more than half of visitors to our hotline were children. They had lost their safe spaces at school and after school programs, and they'd lost access to the most trusted adults in their lives, the people who would be the first to spot signs of abuse, like teachers, counselors, parents of friends of theirs. And so we saw more and more children reaching out for help because they had lost many of the in-person avenues that they would normally go to. We also knew that once the stay-at-home orders started to lift, we would expect to see a rise in visits, and that's exactly what's played out. In May and June, for the first time ever in our 26-year history, our call volumes surpassed 30,000 visitors a month. That's about a 20% increase over our normal call volume. So we fortunately were able to plan ahead, expecting that. We did ramp up and hire additional hotline staff. We've hired 33 new support specialists in the last couple of months. We've also trained an additional 55 new hotline volunteers to supplement our staff, and they've done an extraordinary job in scaling up to help more survivors and their loved ones during these stressful and uncertain times.
Absolutely. That is so incredible. And that breaks my heart to hear of all of those kids calling in. With the release of Make You, I also started the Make You movement. And my focus is to focus on disenfranchised youth, specifically victims and survivors of sexual violence and domestic abuse. But I guess I want to ask, if someone reports something to you, I know there is the TALK acronym, but what should you do? Should you just follow that acronym and listen to them and really see what they think is best at that time? For instance, if a child shares something with you, do you have a responsibility and onus to make sure that child is safe? Where does the line lie? And maybe, obviously my first thought is always refer someone to the hotline. But if you are hearing something from someone and you're not sure if they are safe in their environment, whatever it may be, a work environment, a home environment, do you have a responsibility to do something about that? Or again, does it still lie in the survivor's court?
I'll take the adults first because I think that's a little more straightforward. We do recommend, if a friend or a loved one discloses to you, listening first, leading with empathy, leading with listening, being led by them and what they wish, not trying to make decisions for them because they've already had some very big decisions taken out of their hands. But to listen to them and be led by them. It's great to recommend the hotline, certainly, and glad to hear that you're sharing that information. But to let them know that there are options out there for them should they wish to proceed with that is really important, because again, people who've been affected by sexual violence have already had their sense of agency taken away from them in many ways. So letting them make the decisions of where they want to go next is really important. And the most important thing someone can do is to listen with empathy. Children are a special case.
So I want to know, you are just so knowledgeable and so passionate about everything that you do. How did you originally get involved with RAINN?
Sure. I'm actually fairly new to RAINN. I joined the organization at the beginning of the year. I've spent my career in healthcare with a focus initially on women's health. I was a health policy reporter and have moved through kind of the healthcare and communications space. But I've always been passionate about women's issues and about equality, and the opportunity to join RAINN and to join the communications team here and to help get the word out even further about the services that are available for survivors, but really to help get the word out about the realities of sexual violence and what we can do to help change that reality was just an enormous opportunity that I'm very excited to be part of the team here.
Well, Heather, I appreciate you so much. And like we said, I've started the Make You movement because I really want to do my part where I can help specifically with youth, and any penny I make off of the song Make You, I will be donating to RAINN. So I'm so excited that we can partner together on that, as well as have some, specific merch items maybe in the future that we can donate all the profits towards RAINN. So I'm just so excited to be able to partner together and to use our joint forces to do good and to help a lot of lives. Like I said, if anybody's watching and they need that hotline, we'll make sure all the information is below, but it's 800-656-HOPE. And Heather, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk to us.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me on. And thank you for everything you've done to share your story and to help others know that there is hope and help out there.
There's definitely hope and help, so much of it. And sometimes claiming your own story and stepping into that own inner power is the hardest part, and that's half the battle right there, is just being able to give yourself that validation. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate you spending time with us today. I would like to say that if you are a kid watching this, or if you are a grown adult watching this and you would like to reach out to somebody, RAINN has the National Sexual Assault Hotline that is available any time of the day or night. The number is 800-656-HOPE, or you can contact RAINN at online.rainn.org. We'll leave all of that information below this video too, so you have it. But basically, it's just about reaching out to someone that you trust. If you're a kid, reaching out to a trusted adult like a teacher or a coach or a friend's parent. Keep telling someone until you can find somebody that helps. Know that you are not alone, and there are a lot of people out there who are ready and willing and wanting to help you. I love you all. I love all of you who have been sending me DMs and messages since I've come forward with my story. It brings tears to my eyes sometimes reading some of your stories, and I appreciate your courage wanting to tell me and wanting to share those things with me. And so I'm sending you guys so much love. I want you to know that RAINN is out there for help if you ever feel the need. So now let's move to one of my favorite times of the week. Here are the Well-isms of the week. Focusing on good, positive news, because there's a lot of news out there that is just not so nice all the time. So, Well-ism number 1. In India, there's enough space for trees to grow and space for 2 million residents to plant truckloads of trees while still social distancing. Although the virus has spread fast throughout the country, its threat was not enough to dissuade the government of the most populous Indian state from conducting a mass tree planting campaign along the banks of the river Ganges. India pledges to shade a third of the nation under tree cover by 2030. That's incredible. I love this. Mass tree planting? It's pretty amazing. All right, Well-ism number 2. Some of the most remote parts of Kenya will be showered with internet connectivity thanks to a fleet of giant balloons deployed by Google. The tech company's Loon project will be using large airborne balloons that are in constant motion to broadcast mobile internet at download speeds of up to 18.9 megabytes per second. This will benefit parts of the developing world in the same way that a cell tower broadcasts cell signals. 72% of the 1.2 billion people in East Africa live without internet, and this project aims to close that gap with 4G LTE connectivity. That's incredible. I mean, the fact that a balloon can broadcast internet to over almost 1 billion people, that's insane. All right, Well-ism number 3. Since Jewish Orthodox communities were some of the first to suffer the worst of COVID-19 outbreaks, they are now turning their experiences into a nationwide movement that has already saved thousands of lives. Out of all of the COVID-19 treatments that are currently being researched in the US, convalescent plasma therapy has been shown to be particularly promising, especially for the severe cases of the virus. Treatment involves drawing blood plasma out of an individual, testing it for antibodies, and then injecting it into a sick patient so that the antibody can actually attack the virus for its new host. To date, more than 36,000 American people have been treated with antibody-rich plasma infusions, and more than half of those donations have come from Jewish people. 60% of the donations tested positive for antibodies are proven to be effective in fighting COVID-19. That is incredible. I love science so much. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 15 of Living Well. I'm so happy that we got Heather from RAINN to teach us all of the incredible things that this organization does. I did start my own foundation called the Make You Movement. If you would like to donate to the Make You Movement, we'll put the link below in this video. But I love you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.